Hello, this is Howell, and today we'll be looking at the San Francisco Shock versus Vancouver Titans on Kings Row Stage 2 Finals of Season 2 of the Overwatch League. I want to look at Kings Row because specifically the overtime pushes, both teams had a very large time bank. And going into it, that creates a lot of options. It's not just a desperate push. There's so many options of where to fight, and how to use ult advantage. So that's why I really want to look at it. So let's just jump right in. I've got the VOD pulled up and make it full screen. And so where we're at now is Vancouver Titans have just taken point A, and they're moving under the archway, you can see it here, into the streets phase of point B. This is we can see there's 50 seconds left on the clock. So it took them some time to take point A. And this is really streets phase on most hybrid maps are where a lot of teams want to stop an overtime push if you can't at that first cap. And so what we'll see here is let's start with just the ult advantage. So the ultimate advantage is pretty neutral. It's really hard to say who's in the lead. It's very minute either way, kind of like margin of error type thing. But it's Janu's got the Diva Bomb, Slime has Beat. Conversely, Shock also have Diva Bomb, but then Rascal has Rally. You can see Moth is pretty far from the Beat. And now these three members of Shock, they're pretty close to their ultimates, give or take. So are Sominsu and Haksal. Bumper, pretty close as well, just because it's Earth Shatter. Twilight, a little further because it's Trance, but not very far at all. So pretty close overall. And now what we're gonna see is Janu's gonna throw his Diva Bomb into the fight immediately. It's kind of one of those plays where you don't have a big ultimate. You can use a Diva Bomb to create space, cut people off, get other ults forced out of the enemy team, such as like a Beat or a Trance or whatever. So we're gonna play it, and I'm gonna stop it really quickly after we see a few things. So let's play. And here they are, just kind of posturing. They're looking for it. I'm gonna stop it right here. So I think that what Janu's go trigger was Sinatra bubbling himself. When we think about it, it's like, okay, sure, there's plenty of places to LOS the Diva Bomb here, but now you know that he won't for sure be safe from it, and he won't get 40 charge straight off of the Diva Bomb when it explodes and bursts his bubble. So we're gonna see him immediately bubble super. It won't really matter, but then Rascal is going to use the rally right away. Play here, and we'll just kind of watch it. There it goes. There's the bubble onto super. Super tries to shatter. Bumper blocks it. And then here's the Sominsu's here. Sominsu grabs. And what we saw was Twilight picked off Moth right before Violet got his trance. It was almost the same timing, but Violet was kind of away because he wasn't in the grab. So we saw Violet kind of rushing in, but then Sominsu and Twilight had already picked off Moth. So that's really the huge thing. Now let's reassess the ult situation. Hogsal's in rally right now. Rascal had used his kind of to counter Janu's bomb, give everyone armor, movement speed, everything to get out of the way, and also to re-engage on a team that is theoretically weakened because their diva isn't in mech, right? So they went for it, and that's when we saw Sominsu counter grab, kind of the engage from Vancouver, the re-engage from Shock with the rally after the Diva Bomb didn't get anything, and then kind of a re-engage from Vancouver Titans with the Sominsu's grab. And that's how they ended up here, and that's how they ended up getting the kill onto Moth. Well, now what we're seeing is Sinatra, right on this frame, is using his grab on the Titans. Looks good, right? He's going to get everyone on the Titans in this grab. But the problem is they're already down a member. And one thing Lucios are really good for with pairing with Grav is you get a speed boost your team in to get really your Reinhardt and your Brigitte in, or to just reposition. And one thing, let me pull up Epic Pen real quick here. One thing you'll see teams wanting to do is, Sinatra's over here, and then Super and the rest will be here. Well, one thing a Lucio adds is maybe he can be up here, wall riding, or up here. and then you have more angles of attack, right, on its grab. So basically a Reinhardt shield can't cover it all, and a Brigitte shield certainly can't cover it all, right? Let's just get rid of that, go back to pointer, and I'm going to play this out, and we'll see. Vancouver has triple support ult. They're using the rally right now, which is important. And now they double stack their support ults. Not great, but it works. Not good for the ult economy in the long run, but it totally wins them the fight. And now the Vancouver Titans have negated the Graviton Surge for sure. They used theirs first, so Su is 50%, whereas Sinatra is at 26% with his grav. And gravs are just those big team fight winning ultimates that you really want. We'll look at the ult economy. It's pretty even still. The difference, I think, is that Super and Bumper both have Shatter. That's fine, but it really does come down to who used their grab first and who has more ult charge. Now we look at the support ults. Moth and Violet are fairly ahead, but there's kind of unless this is a really long fight, they're kind of pretty far away still. Twilight and Slime are as well, but I mean the point's kind of moot if there's just no support ults altogether. And the thing about King's Row is you want to take that early archway fight because it's super easy to defend. And if you win that fight, it's really easy to defend. That's why I think Shock decided to pour so much investment into that. Well, Vancouver won. You don't want to fight anywhere here as a defensive team, especially on an overtime push. The next place you want to defend is point B because the Titans will be furthest from spawn. It's a pretty good spot to take a fight as the defense. So what's going to happen is just rolling this. Vancouver's just going to get to point B. But right around that last corner, when they round that last corner, we'll see that's where Shock kind of want to pick that fight. And we'll just play this out. So here we go. Vancouver are coming around this corner, and this is, you have Super looking for the Shatter, clearly. Twilight's over here, creating somewhat of a crossfire. So we can see these teams posturing. Now let's reassess the ults. Sominsu's ult is 70. Sinatra gained a pretty, it's an equal margin of ult charge. But Sominsu is so much closer that it matters. A lot more for them. So there's the Shatter from Bumper. And we can see it just caught Moth here. Not the best Shatter, but we'll see Vancouver Titans capitalize on this, which is huge. Then, Super is up here. And I think the real reason Super ends up dying is, I actually want to rewind this really quick. Look at how low Violet just happens to go. I think that Twilight or maybe Slime snipes him a bit because he just got melted down to here. So I think that he receives Rascal's armor pack, which prevents that armor pack from going onto Super. It's hard to say if it would have saved him or not, but I think that's kind of what's going on here. Vancouver Titans dive onto Moth, end up getting him, capitalize on Super being too far ahead. Rascal uses his rally, but it's just too late. And this is really the big thing. Getting point B is the biggest thing in an overtime push in a hybrid map. Because clearly after that, you have significantly less chance of getting the finish of the map. But the offensive team's spawn is now that much closer versus that first spawn room all the way back by A. And then secondly, we're looking at ult economy. It's pretty close, but Vancouver's got a lot of weapons here. Now I'm going to skip this because Vancouver ends up losing, and I don't really have a lot to say about it. I'll just roll it out for a bit here while I talk. They don't have a lot, really. It's a fight I think they should win, but Shock play it really well. I guess I'll go for it. I'll just analyze it really quick before we go to Shock's overtime push. I'll do a very brief version. So Sominsu gets that grab out. Violet's ready. Video didn't pause. So let's go back. Super gets this fat shatter on both of the support members of the Vancouver Titans, which is huge. Not only for defensive capabilities when Twilight has the trance, but also for offense capabilities. Because, like I said, the Lucio crossfire angle that he can get from wall riding, booping, offensively and defensively. And then Zenyatta also huge damage, as we know. Discord Orb, everything. So despite the grav and the ult advantage, Vancouver actually just gets outplayed here. And now they're down Twilight. Twilight, it's like he had that trance. That was huge. And then that was an example of a bomb that Choi Hyobin slides in right here. The bomb's not going to get the kill because Bumper has to block that. But then Super and Sinatra over here just tearing them apart. Violet's over here. Apparently shooting at the wall now for fun. But he obviously he either had a Discord orb or shots got in. So that's kind of that. And now let me just check the timestamp on the Shock's overtime push. Or I should say time bank. So gonna go to 2940-ish. Video thumbnails are so laggy. Yeah, let's go here. Okay, so I want to start each phase of each team in the same spot. So, like just with the Vancouver Titans, we're going into the streets phase through this archway. I actually want to say it's important that when the Vancouver Titans were attacking, they actually won the push onto A really cleanly. So they lost the first really long positioning push, but then they won the second push really easy due to an ult advantage. And then Shock died. They knew they were gonna die. It wasn't like a stalling situation, so they got back to that archway really cleanly. Titans are a bit later. The fight was a little less decisive, I would say. Not necessarily from the Shock, but Vancouver didn't necessarily flee or run away or couldn't run away in the most optimal way. So they kind of got staggered out. So their point of offense, they're not going to have or defense, sorry, they're not going to have that archway to defend in, which like I said is generally considered the most optimal place to do a first defense on a streets. So what's the second best place? Well, right before point B here. We actually see sometimes that teams won't even take fights in the streets phase because it's so risky. There's not a lot of good terrain to fight around for defense, especially because their spawn is so far away. Their spawn is now all the way at that furthest back point, whereas the offense have that spawn right by point A. So we'll see this. And Monte Cristo just said, this is a decision they need to make for positioning of this fight based on their ult economy. And we're about to see something really weird. So I'm going to roll it, and then I'm going to talk about it. So let's talk about what we've seen so far, just really quickly. So Summon Su just ran up before all of his team was ready. A solo grab super. He was pretty high energy, to be fair. He actually got full 100 energy off of his barriers there, despite coming off of the spawn. And what we saw is Choi Hyobin threw in his bomb as a counter grab, a counter bomb to kind of say, okay, Vancouver Titans, you have to run away and LOS this now. You can't attack Super and chase him down. Well, okay, good. Super ends up living. Hoxall's rallying, and then Slime uses this sound barrier. And then Vancouver re-engages, and they go for another offensive with that sound barrier. Now, Vancouver's actually got a slight ult advantage here, and I think they knew this, because their defense on point A was pretty good. And the fight they lost was, I believe Hoxall got picked off. So it wasn't like they invested all kinds of things into this fight and then lost it. It was more, all right, someone got picked off. Don't use anything. Let's get out of here. So they actually did have a pretty good ult economy coming into this fight. And I'm going to rewind this really quickly, just a couple of seconds. So here's the grav. You can see, oh, well, I missed it, but he was at 95 energy, we could see there. And then here's the let me see, just found my mouse. Here is the counter bomb that's kind of like, all right, Vancouver, run away. And then what I want to watch is Haxall. Pull up the Epic Pen again. Haxall's gonna run over here. And he's actually gonna make a shield bash stun play onto Super, where Bumper will ideally pin him. Then we also see Sinatra's personal barriers here. Always good to just keep track of those in general. So, like I said, watch Haxall here. He's gonna go through the play here. Here's the sound barrier. Here there was the stun, and we can see the shield bash stun is on Super. Now I don't know if Bumper mistimed this, miscommunication. He's caught in the swing right now, so he can't actually pin right away. And Moth boops Haxall. I'll bring this up one more time. Moth is right here, boops Haxall all the way over here. So Haxall can't kind of just like run in there, get in there with everybody. Super good defensive boop by Moth, by the way. And what we're gonna see is because of this mistiming or miscommunication, whatever it may be, Bumper is actually late to the pin, and they'll end up hitting each other right there. And now Shock kind of make this move to the left, their left, where they're like, hey, look, uh, our tank is down. He's on the ground. He's half HP. They've got a sound barrier, so they definitely have the advantage. We got to help him. So Sinatra and Violet run in here. Violet hits the trance, and then we're going to watch immediately after. Sinatra's going to get a good grab here. Super good grab, right? Well, they get Bumper, they get Janu, and they kill them both. Where's the rest of the Titans? Well, we can't see them. They're already running away. They already know what's going on. I think it's proposition because I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't in comms. But when we look at the ultimate economy, we know that Shock just used trance and they just used grab. They also used sound barrier earlier, and they're not that close to it. What we're looking at now is Rascal's got a rally coming up, and Super will have his Earth Shatter. Pretty good alts, but it's goats. Most teams know how to play around the shatter really well. Super is so good at shattering, but it's still really hard. When we look over at Vancouver Titans, they use the sound barrier in that fight, and Twilight, who hasn't tranced for a while, is kind of like, hey guys, remember that ult advantage we had last fight? We still actually have it. Even though they don't have any ultimates right now, they're really close to the shatter and they're really close to the trance. And so when you look over here, you're like, oh, well, they're only close to the rally. Although it doesn't look like a big ult advantage, it's actually huge. And that's why these numbers are so important. So I'm going to play this out. We're going to see Violet's going to get a little bit more charge here. He dies, but he gets that extra percentage that he needs to get to 100. And then you look at a situation like this, and you're like, okay, Sinatra's got 93 energy. He's chasing down the enemy team. He's getting more ult percentage with each hit. Huge, right? Well, it doesn't work out that way. Theoretically, it should. He's got the advantage. The other team's running. They shouldn't really be able to get any ultimate percentage. But from this point, where Sinatra's at 7, I have 8 listed here from the couple seconds I timed. Sinatra goes from 8 to 22% ult charge. Okay, so that's 14. Somin-Su goes from 38, where he's at 39 here, so I'm a little off. It wasn't perfect. 38 to 56% ult charge. The last numbers are both at the same time, which is more important. But that's 18%, right? So Somin-Su actually gets more ult charge in this situation, and like I said during the Vancouver overtime push on offense, the percentages are very equal, 14 to 18%, pretty marginal difference. But the fact that Somin-Su is that much closer, like at the end of this 22 to 56, that's almost a 40% difference. That's huge. And now Sinatra's going to make it close, but as you can guess, Salman Su's going to get his grab first. So actually, I I don't know if it made a huge difference. I don't know if it's game breaking. But this chase down, I'll play it now, that we're seeing here is actually not that good. Now we can see Sinatra, here we go, 22%, 56%. Salman Su's over halfway there. Sinatra's only a quarter, not even a quarter. So here's that trance. And Monty just said it. They can use the trance to go aggressive, which is the biggest thing. So Super goes for this shatter. He only gets Janu, as we can see here. And then immediately Vancouver's going to use both their bubbles from Somansu, get the charge up on him, and then Twilight just ults. Aggressive ult. Because they know that there's no grab. And that's the biggest thing. That's really the only threat now that the shatter's out that they need to account for. So Bumper shatters. He only gets Violet, but what a target to get. We're going to see Slime and a couple others actually go for Violet, and Moth has another super good defensive boop where he gets everyone but Slime off of. So here goes Slime off of Violet. And so despite the fact that Violet lives, Somin Su just got a bunch of ult charge. Sinatra's at 67. Somin Su's got it. There's nothing that Shock have that can account for this. There's nothing. Rascal popped the rally, but it's already over. And now they're just going to clean up. So what we really saw here was how one ultimate can swing a huge ultimate advantage. And I think the big difference to take away here is on Vancouver Titans' attack in their time bank round. They took the early fight and they won. And they came out of it with no ult advantage, no ults left, really. Well, they had Earth Shatter, but so did Super, so no ultimate advantage. And then on the other hand, Shock came out of their first point B push, but actually down. And we have to think, was that grab necessary? Probably, maybe. I actually think that the grab wasn't necessary and that they could have just used the Transcendence when they were in the bookstore. But it's hard to say. We can't know, and I can't know. But what I do know is that one ultimate advantage that they knew they had and that they knew that San Francisco Shock didn't have, uh well, I wouldn't say any support ults because they had Rally, but they didn't have Beat or Trance, the two big ones. And they knew Sinatra didn't have Grav. So when that Earth Shadow was accounted for by Super, it was free game. Just use that Trance aggressively. And yeah, that's it. This was one of the better maps, I think, in the series. It was a really good series, but this one was really competitive, and they had such a good King's Row in Stage 1 when they played in the regular season. So I think this was really cool to watch. It set the series up for 1-1. The huge time banks are always interesting because when a team has just a few seconds, it's desperation mode the whole time. There's a little bit more thought and intricacy in really large time banks like this. The teams had similar amounts of time to their first push, which is super cool. So anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Uh, like, comment, whatever, thumbs up, thumbs down. Let me know what you think. And yeah, that'll be it.